What's happening, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. If it is your first time touching down on this channel, welcome to Small Feet Big Heat. We talk sneakers, we talk streetwear, and everything in between. Now, this is definitely not a reaction channel, but I have been keeping up with the Warren Lotas situation, like I'm sure a lot of people in the sneaker community have. And Jeff Staple actually just did an interview with Benjamin Kickz. I would have had no idea that this interview even took place if it wasn't for Warren Lotas posting snippets of the interview, just cut up pieces of it on his IG stories. And of course, out of context, you can make anything sound like anything. So I actually want to hear it from the horse's mouth. What did Jeff Staple have to say for himself? Because a lot of people feel like after that Warren Lotas Pigeon, Jeff Staple is a clown. You know, he's lost the respect of a lot of the sneaker community, because that's what we're all here for, right? To impress and gain the respect of people we don't know and will probably never meet on the internet. No, stop caring about what people on the internet think so much. It amazes me that just the amount of sneaker like elitism within the sneaker community, and that goes for Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, just across the board. The fact that someone can think their opinion is so much more valuable than anyone else's, that you think you have such a lock on what's going on that you don't want to hear what anyone else has to say, amazes me, because it's ignorance. And that's not to say that I don't have, respect for my OGs and people who have been collecting sneakers longer than me or anything like that, because I do. I have complete respect for them, because without them, I wouldn't be gaining the knowledge that I do have about sneakers. That stuff is passed down. However, what a person has in their collection, whether it be rare dunks, PE, sample shoes, one-of-ones, whatever the case may be, doesn't mean that they have more passion for sneakers and the sneaker community than the guy or girl who goes to Foot Locker Thursday, Friday, Saturday, buys GRs, what have you. So I just want to make that clear and say that before we jump into this. But anyways, let's roll that interview. I'm going to be reacting for the first time. I have not seen it. I have not watched it, other than those short little snippets that I saw on Warren Lotas' Instagram. Let's get to it. So this video is actually a little bit over 27 minutes, and I don't think y'all want to sit here and watch me talk for 30 minutes. So I'll just leave in the parts that I'm actually reacting to, and I'll take out, the dead space where I'm just listening and stuff like that. So let's get to it. Let's start it.
What is good, everybody? It is your boy Ben Kickz back again, and today I got my boy Jeff Staple with me. So you already know, shout out to Jeff, huge legend. If you know, you know. If you don't, please get educated. And honestly, let's get right into it.
Thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited.
So we are gonna have the masks on because it still is COVID. So
Yeah.
just in case.
It is me though. There you go. There you go.
But yeah, we'll be precautious about everything. One of the things that I want to get into with you that obviously a lot of people probably want to know about is you designed a couple shoes with Nike.
A few.
What is it, if you could just explain to those that don't know, what is it like from the top to bottom, the process of actually going into it, designing it, creating it, sampling it, just the whole thing?
All right. I mean, first of all, if you're lucky enough to get the opportunity to design a shoe with Nike, first of all, going to Beaverton, Oregon, and going to the Nike campus. Have you ever been?
No, I haven't. I actually really want to go. That's crazy.
I mean, to me, growing up, Beaverton, Oregon, and the Nike campus was like the Wizard of Oz. It was like Disneyland.
Right.
And the closest you could get to it was going to like a Nike Town. Like Nike Town is kind of like a condensed version of...
Real quick, I don't know if they're at Jeff's house or Benjamin Kick's house. I'm pretty sure it's Benjamin Kick's house, but all of those shoes in the bag, he has a fire collection. Like, whether you think that he's a culture vulture, since people love throwing that word around, whether you think he's a culture vulture or not, like, he's very young, getting to the bag. Like, his collection in the background is really dope. But let's move on.
The campus. But like finally going there, it's like just the most amazing thing, because then you get to see the lab and the field and the Michael Jordan statues and all that. So that's amazing. And then just meeting all the people who are sort of behind the technology and innovation behind the shoes is dope. It's surreal, to be honest, because you're sitting there and like most sneakerheads grew up worshiping these kicks that we all love, and then now.
Also, another quick pause, those 7-Eleven joints in the back, since those never released, they never released. What's the verdict on those for the people who love to talk about fake versus real and I only fuck with real shit? Are those fake or are they real? Because they were never released.
You got the guy who like designed it, like the OG
Sitting right there.
sitting right there, and he's like, "What do you like? We want to learn from you." And I'm just like, "What are you talking about, bro?" Like,
Yeah, I want to learn from you.
yeah, it's like it's crazy, but like it's this really great collaboration. And I gotta say, one of the dopest things about working with Nike, because we collaborate with a lot of different brands and companies, right? And one of the things that always happens that's very common is you do a collaboration, you do a project, and then the person that is hiring you to do something is like, they pull like that old like, do you really like that color? Maybe we should make it smaller. We should make this bigger. Why don't we change the rollout? Like, no, bro, I want this color. Why do you question me on the color? Nike takes the time to choose who they want to collaborate with, but after that, if Virgil's like, I want to cut holes in the shoe, they're like, are you sure we should cut holes? Yes, you hired me. I want to cut holes in the shoe.
Yeah.
You know, and like Nike never questions people like that. Like, look at the Sakai's. The Sakai's happened because Nike trusted Sakai to do that. If Sakai was working with any other brand, they would have been like, nah, you can't. You can't double stack the shit and have it come out like that. They would have, modified it.
So this goes back to kind of what I was saying in my last Warren Lotas video, where I was like, Nike has and is improving on their relationships with these collaborators. Like, if you look at early Nike collaborations, they're not nearly as out of the box as the ones that we see now. I think that they really learned a lesson from Kanye telling them, hey, give the people you're collaborating with more room to be creative, because I don't think that half the stuff Virgil Abloh does now would have flown back then. I don't think they would have had it, but let's listen to the rest.
That's the dope thing about working with Nike is, when we did the first OG Pigeon dunk, the brief was, we want you to design a shoe that's dedicated to New York City. That's it.
The Pigeon, like, that's obviously your main logo branding. Where did that come from? I guess you're obviously from New York, but like, how did you...
Let me also just say that pigeons are fucking disgusting. Like, I don't know one New Yorker that actually likes pigeons. So the fact that these sneakers and that logo has gone crazy, it's a little mind-boggling to me. Like, I get it, but I also don't get it, because if you actually live in New York City, you don't like pigeons.
You spark up with, let me use a pigeon.
So first of all, I always loved animal logos, right? When I growing up, Polo, Ralph Lauren, Lacoste alligator, later on, shout out Mark Echo and the rhino, right? So for me, the pigeon really represented that hustle, that just like non-stop grind that New Yorkers go through.
Can we talk about how Benjamin Kickz in the beginning started out this video saying how they're being COVID safe, and he's not wearing his mask properly at all?
Which means like you can't sell the shoe.
Right.
I also changed that to say not for resell, which is a nice nod to the whole don't resell your shoes, wear your shoes culture. So Nike loved that, and this is what I'm saying is the best part about Nike. Like, no other company would have approved this.
Right.
They would have been like, nah, the lawyers will get mad, we'll get sued, it'll be confusing. Like, Nike was like, let's try it. Especially the SB team, especially SB. They're especially like daring.
As far as the purple,
the
purple pigeons, right? Most people probably think those...
Where did that shoe come from? He really just pulled that shoe out of his ass, or like behind him or some shit. Wow. They should have just put it in the front or something, because that was hella distracting. Now I'm just thinking about where it came from.
Are also created by you, because...
Right, it's a confusing thing, yeah.
Even I call them purple pigeons.
Yeah,
that's just...
Everyone calls them purple pigeon. So this was one that was created by Nike SB without my authorization. Not that they needed it, but I'm sure when they created this, somebody at Nike said like, yo, these kind of look like pigeons, and they were like, yeah, let's just do it. I don't know, maybe someone wants to speak up, but it doesn't matter to me because the streets claimed it. When it came out, the streets were like, those are purple pigeons, and I think it is. That's what I love. Yeah, that's what I love, man. That's what I love about street culture is that like, if any company puts out a shoe that has any grade of purple or gray and pink, the comments are like, yo, did just people get a check for this? You know, they call it for me.
The question I think a lot of people have been waiting for. Obviously, you did your collabs with Nike, and like we said, you made one of the most dopest exclusive hype shoes on the market to this day. Years later, a decade later. Obviously, we've all been seeing Warren he did a Stussy dunk. He did, what was it, Heineken dunk, and then he did the hottest one of all, the Pigeon.
Yeah.
How was it I don't know if you want to get into it too much.
That will not be releasing, by the way. So if you ordered the chanclas or the pigeons, make sure you get your refund, or else you'll be getting the replacement shoe. I talked about it in my last video. Go check it out.
But whatever you can say, like, how was it, like, as far as the process of, like, how did he reach out? Whatever you can say, whatever you're comfortable saying on camera. I mean, obviously, a lot of people want to know about it, and everyone wants to know what exactly is going on.
Yep.
I'm sure you can't say everything, but whatever you can say, if you want to get into it.
I mean, I'll say I'm always a fan of DIY bootleg culture.
Right.
You know,
And people should know that about Jeff Staple. I feel like when this whole Warren Lotas Jeff Staple collab came out, it didn't surprise me because I follow Jeff Staple on Instagram. I see the projects that he likes and he's interested in, and the stuff that he posts. You can tell he's very much into customization of his shoes and other people's shoes. So it didn't surprise me at all. And I think that the sneaker community just kind of, they made the shock a little bit more than what it was. Because if you still keep up with Jeff Staple, not just for the Nike Pigeon Dunk, but because you like who he is as a person or as a businessman or as just a staple in the streetwear community, then you should know that he's very much into customization, bootlegging, whatever you want to call it.
love it. That's how Staple started. And to me, that's where true creativity happens, you know. I once heard Kanye West say, I hope every kid out there bootlegs my shoes, because that's when the next great shit will happen. So I've been a fan of Warren and what he was doing. I can't speak much more beyond that because it is, as everyone knows, it's a legal matter now that I can't speak on. It's an open legal matter right now. And, you know, I could see the perspective on both sides, but I will say that, you know, brands have always pushed the culture forward, and it's always been uncomfortable for certain parties, you know?
Right, of course.
When Bathing Ape first put out the Bapesta, pulled the swoosh off an Air Force One and put, like, something that looked like a swoosh and a star, there was the OG heads that was like, yo, that's whack, that's basically a bootleg.
And just real quick, I'm sorry I keep pausing it, but it is a reaction video. I'm gonna talk. But for the people in my comments and for the people who have said, oh, the Bape is completely different, the Bapesta is completely different than the Air Force One, the Bape model that is releasing now does look a little bit different. They've definitely, you know, gone astray than what it originally was, but the Bapesta that was originally released was a one-of-one of the Air Force One. I'm not talking about the Bapestas that are coming out in 2020. No one cares about the Bapestas that are coming out in 2020. I'm talking about Nego era Bape. And as he was leaving Bape, those Bapestas, they look like Air Force Ones. So let's not sit here and kid ourselves like the Bapesta that we see today in 2020 always looked like that, because it didn't.
Like, Japanese heads were like, no, that's dope, that's Nego, you know. And of course now Bape is like a probably almost $1 billion company, and they can't be stopped at this point, you know. And to me, it's like the difference between, here's my thing, like, I always want to just question, why does Nego get away with it, but like when Skechers does a bootleg, it's horrible. Right. And it is horrible, I agree. But I'm interested in the question of why, like, a dude in China who's a bootlegger is bootlegging, Skechers is whack, but Nego is dope. This is like, what?
Well, that's a little bit different, because the guy in China, the Alibaba shit, like I said, that's made with the intention to fool people, to trick people, to get one over on people. It's negative. They're trying to take your money in exchange for a good or a service that they told you was authentic, and that is wrong. But the bootleg arena of things is more about creativity and pushing the boundaries, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. The Bapesta pushed Nike to putting more colors on the Air Force One, to using more materials on the Air Force One. Air Force Ones would have probably just stayed, you know, very complacent, very mild if it wasn't for Bape coming in and giving Nike that kick in the ass, like, okay, we're gonna light a fire under you and what you've been doing, because now we're gaining a whole new cult of people who want what we have and what we're providing, which are the bright colors and the differing materials, the patent leather, so on and so forth. So
I 100% get what you're saying, and that's where I'm confused why they'd be upset at what anything you guys did.
Now let's go to like Sabotage and Swoosh Surgeon, who is not even changing the swoosh.
Right.
They're straight up bootleg. Like they are taking the swoosh, and I love these guys. I've collaborated with them too because I also want to question why is the guy who made the OG Pigeon dump with Sabotage, who is a DIY guy, you know? So to me, what's really interesting is that when Nike sues or gets mad, what they're saying is you're bootlegging. You're making people think that they're buying the fake thing. Like when you go to Canal Street and buy a fake Rolex, you want to floss to your friends that this is real. You want to trick them. No one's buying a shoe surgeon or a Warren Lotas shoe to trick their friends.
The
intent. It's all about the intent.
You don't go to warrenlotas.com, add $300 item to your car and be like, oh, he tricked me, man. I thought these were the pigeons. I thought these were the Stussies. No.
Anyone who bought those sneakers and thought that they were getting an authentic Nike product, you couldn't have read the description. It says Warren Lotas product. It doesn't say authentic Nike product. It doesn't say Nike product. It said Warren Lotas product. Bold letters.
Come on. Honestly, I like what he did with everything. And at the end of the day, what he's doing really, it's great for resellers. It's great for me because when I'm sitting on 20, 30 pairs of Stussies and he releases a Stussie for 300 or whatever.
Do you find that the Stussies start selling like crazy and they go up?
I find that maybe they don't start selling like crazy, but they definitely go up.
Do you know how Phil Knight started Nike? Do you know why he started Nike? Phil Knight, everyone knows Phil Knight founded Nike. He was a distributor for Asics Tiger sneakers.
True.
He was a distributor for the Japanese brand Asics. And he started selling Asics out the back of his trunk to all the runners on the West Coast.
Right.
He got so much demand that Asics couldn't supply the demand. And he was like, yo, I need more of your shoes. I need more of your shoes. And they're like, we can't get you anymore. You're selling too well. He's like, I'm going to take a waffle maker and I'm going to make my version of what you did.
Right.
And he made it. And the first one was like the Bruin, the waffle runner, right? That was the first shoes. Those were bootlegs of Asics.
Right.
He made the bootleg because the original maker couldn't supply the demand.
So, while I understand what he's doing, he's not telling the full story, and I don't think that you can really do that. First off, he was just talking very highly of Nike, and like I said, it's very possible for you to hold two conflicting thoughts in your head. That doesn't make you a hypocrite. Maybe it does, whatever, but you can have an appreciation for Nike and still recognize when they've done something wrong. And Nike has done their dirt, but what he's saying right now isn't the full story. So anyone who's wondering, like, the Nike Asics thing, you should go look that up for yourself, because I can tell he's not about to tell the full story around that situation.
Does that sound familiar? Does that sound at all familiar to what's happening right now? So Nike Inc., the founder of Nike Inc., is the OG shoe dog bootlegger. The whole company is built on a bootleg. I'll tell you this fact, and no one can argue me on this. If Asics said, yo, Phil, we got you, 25,000 pairs are coming on a boat right now, you gotta get them tomorrow, there would be no Nike today.
So that was the Jeff Staple and Benjamin Kickz interview. I think in regard to Warren Lotas, I don't feel like he was necessarily coming to his defense. I think Warren used those clips of him talking about Nike being the biggest bootlegger ever as kind of like a, oh, Nike does this too, so you can't be so upset with me kind of thing, which I don't really agree with. I don't believe in pointing out the flaws in other people just because someone has an issue with you or has taken an issue with you. So I don't agree with that, but I do think Jeff Staple hit some interesting points in his interview. A lot more than just faking and bootlegging and whatever the case may be. And it's also clear that he still has an appreciation for Nike. So it'll be interesting to see if they work together in the future again, or if he just burned a bridge. Let me know down below in the comment section, how do y'all feel about this interview? As always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, show a small YouTuber some love, and I'll check y'all out in the next one.